podcast. It's your host with the most, Jet. My partner, CProc. We got our two favorite guest spurts, Greg and The Shaddillac. Thanks for kicking it with us, gang. Um, let's get right into it. Ja Morant has been in the news lately for things that are not basketball related. And it's kind of taking a toll on his team because of his absence. I'm not even sure what kind of program it is. We were looking to find out if it's like a mental program, anger management, whatever it is. I want to know, how do we feel that how are we feeling this affects the Grizzlies team? I know they're kind of used to playing without him last year when he was down with the injury. Do we expect more of the same, or are they going to take a low? How are we feeling? Shad, we can start with you.
Um, I was never too high on the Memphis Grizzlies anyway. I always thought they were just like a regular season type of team. But without Ja, I don't think they are contenders anymore. I don't see them getting out of the first round. Um, I just feel like if he comes back, the team chemistry is probably going to be off. If he doesn't come back, I just don't think they have enough, star power, um, to beat any team in the West, because the West is deep, from 1 through like 11. Every team has like kind of like at least one, probably two or three star players. I feel like Memphis was basically just built around Ja, and you had kind of like the scrappy, role players, to kind of get points here and there and do all the dirty work. In the playoffs, you're going to need, people, those star players to get, 30, 40, 50 point games, and win, 2, 3 games single handedly for you. And I just don't think, Memphis has that without Ja. And I just think, I don't know, they're between a rock and a hard place, because if he does come back, he's going to be, and not to his fault, well, kind of his fault, but he's going to be a very big distraction to the team, kind of media wise. I think a lot of the road fans are going to just boo the hell out of him. They're going to have like those inappropriate signs, he's going to have like those fans that are just going to say anything to him. The media is going to question him after every game, and he's gonna have to watch his actions on the court, on the bench. Um, so I think this really takes Memphis out of it, and they just have to kind of retool, next year, and hopefully they get back to where they were. I think they were second in the West at one point.
Greg, how are you feeling about how this Josh situation is going to affect the Grizzlies?
Yeah, I agree for the most part with Chad. Quite frankly, there's never a good time for a situation like this to occur. This, from an NBA season perspective, is probably the worst. I mean, they have, I believe, 15 games left on the schedule. I mean, they announced he checked into a treatment facility of some sort, counseling, etc. And then purely just gets into basketball ways. I mean, he comes back. I mean, good for him. If this makes him better long term, that's good for him in the franchise. But if we're talking this season alone, just purely like chemistry wise, like Chad said, and basketball legs. I mean, yeah, he's a great athlete, but you haven't played NBA basketball in 3 weeks, a month. It gets into, he's not walking back in the court and is the same John, can play 48 minutes. And yeah, I think for this year, they're still a good team without him. But whatever aspirations they had to possibly be a title contender, I think that goes out the window with this. I don't see them going too far in the playoffs. The timing of the when this happened, I think, is too much for them to overcome.
Yeah. Partner, anything to add on the Josh situation?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna take a little bit of a different approach, because I'm gonna read the press release from the Glendale Police Department, and verbatim, I'm gonna throw it up on the screen. On March 4th, 2023, the Glendale Police Department was alerted by members of the media of video circulating on the internet that involved a prominent NBA player singing and holding what appeared to be a firearm by the butt end of a gun for several seconds. Through investigation, the GPD was able to determine the incident took place at Shotgun Willie's, located in the city of Glendale, during the club's lawful operating hours. GPD was not able to determine that probable cause existed for the filing of any charges. In this case, it should be noted that on the night in question, the GPD did not receive any calls for service at the nightclub regarding a weapon of any type. Subsequently, no disturbances were reported, and no citizens or patrons of the club came forward to make a complaint. The investigation also concluded that no one was threatened or menaced with the firearm, and in fact, no firearm was ever located. Although the video was concerning enough to prompt an investigation, there was not enough evidence to charge anyone with a crime. Under our justice systems, all persons are presumed innocent until proven otherwise. So, like, you read that, and knowing that there were no charges filed, this seems like a lot of media malfeasance and making a mountain out of a molehill a little bit. I mean, if there were no charges filed, it's highly likely it was in legal possession of it. And on top of that, what's the worst you could charge Ja Morant with other than just making a dumb decision? He's 23 years old. What 23-year-old doesn't make a dumb decision or two in that point of their life? So, I mean, like, to me, the timing is awful. His decision making is awful, but at the same time, like, nothing happened. It's just a young kid making a dumb decision, and unfortunately, it comes during the worst time it could possibly happen as far as his profession and his organizations is concerned. I will say, after they reported that he checked into rehab, they did say that he has been in constant communication with his teammates during this whole time. So that's good that he's at least like keeping some kind of chemistry going with them, and he's noting that he's watching the games and supporting them and giving them good feedback when they play well. So, like, at least it doesn't feel like, even though he's not there with them, it feels like he's kind of there with them. So, like, maybe there's a little bit of a what's the word? Camaraderie still going on there despite his absence. But I mean, it's just such a weird thing to, like, look at the facts of the case and, like, match up whether the public reaction to it is appropriate or not. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ja's just an idiot.
Yeah.
But he's a 23-year-old kid. Like,
he's hustling backwards.
What 23-year-old kid isn't an idiot?
But Chase, I'm with Chad here. You're looking at this from a legal perspective. No one's trying to charge him with anything. This has nothing to do with if there's a pure mistake in a club, and there's a picture of him with something. You don't go to some treatment facility. You know, his teammates and coach had said a while back, you know, they're supporting him, but you could read between the lines. They're basically saying he needs to grow up. There was an incident where he had, you know, basically put a gun? Right? Basically, he hit a teenage kid over a scuffle. So, I mean, the legal thing to me means nothing. I don't mean to just – that means nothing as far as what the real deal is. He's not in a facility because of some mistake no, you can just – you're right. I get it. He's 20 years old. But I think this is a series of events, and to Shad's point, he's acted like an idiot. I mean, that's plain and simple, right? So
right.
I'm not trying to vilify him, but, you know, I think any of us can say he's going down a path which he's had own family members comment like that, you know, that this is not where he should be. He's a leader. He wants to be a leader on and off the court, right? Like, that sets an example. If the rest of his teammates are at the club all night as well, you get where I'm going here. It was a stupid move. And that, to me, is the issue. He needs to grow up.
And not even in their hometown. They're in Colorado. They're outside of Denver. So it's
right.
You know, I don't know off the top of my head if that was following a Nuggets game or if they were just there hanging out. But I mean, at that point, it's like when you're on the road, just at a certain point, like, play the game. Okay, maybe go out for a victory drink or something. Go back to the hotel and get ready to get on the airplane the next day.
Yeah, and again, by no means am I trying to say, I'm not getting in the legal aspect. I don't. But that's not a good picture. You know, you're a leader. You're a possible MVP candidate. You're trying to win an NBA title. You know, and he's concerned with who knows, social media, and it was stupid. Bottom line, it was stupid. And obviously, there's the saying, "There's smoke, there's fire." Because again, I'm not judging. I don't know what it is, but he didn't go to whatever facility he did just because of that. There's no way. So
Yeah.
No, exactly. Ja, I don't know. Like I said, he's kind of hustling backwards. He came up in a, pretty good home, 2-parent home, wasn't from the streets, and never heard anything about him. Now it seems like he's trying to hang out with the wrong crowd, or he's trying to, act cool around like new people, or his friends never made it and they just never grew up, and he's trying to, caving into like peer pressure of, the rap game or whatever, and now he's trying to act like, a thug, and it's going to catch up to him. Like, why would you go to the mall and try to beat up, like a sneaker salesman because they, did something to your mom, like, or like they said something to your mom? Like, even if you try to do that, you don't need to be involved in that. Send like a couple of your friends, like, hey, go take care of him, like go scare him or something. And then like there's a story about him, like his friends like having like a laser gun pointed at the Pacers team bus.
Yep.
Like it's just like, Ja, like you need to drop the people that you're around. I mean, even if these people are around you that long, like they've been around you since day one, I mean, sometimes you just kind of outgrow people. Like you got to let them go, because this is going to cost you, like, your shoe deal that you just got because Kyrie did some dumb stuff. That you took his over his shoe deal, and Nike's probably shaking their head like, we're not gonna give nobody no more shoe deal. He had I don't know if he still does, has a deal with Powerade. I know they're gonna push like, some commercials he was in during the, NCAA tournament. I don't think that's happening anymore. Who knows what other deals that he made and messed up for himself. He's, a max player in the NBA. Well, why are you doing this? You might be the face of the NBA in a couple of years when LeBron and KD and Curry retire. You might be like the best American born player in the league. And how that could be. You could be the most marketable player. You could be like, even if you like have a little rough image to you, which is not you, maybe you come off like an Allen Iverson. I don't think Allen Iverson really did, or at least we know about anything like this type of stuff where he's getting, pretty much like almost suspended, because stuff that he's doing off the court and, being something that he's trying not to be.
Yeah, quickly, just expand quickly. I think the team has done him a service, and I actually mean that, because this is the type of deal, as a human being, as a person, like Chad, the judge just said, he's going down a road, obviously hanging around with people that he doesn't need to be, right? So, like, before he blows everything for himself and the team, like, I actually think they took a good stance, like, suspending him indefinitely. And they basically said they wanted to learn more about it. They needed to talk more with him about it. And obviously they came to an agreement, and good for Ja as well. You know what? I applaud him. Whether he was forced to, we don't know, but, good on him. He's acknowledging his actions have been foolish, and obviously they're jointly trying to do something about it. So, that's more important, because we've seen enough incidents of, athletes getting in trouble. Remember Ruggs from the Raiders driving the car. It goes down to bad road. So I think they're doing him and the team a service by addressing this now, not putting a Band-Aid on it.
So
Thanks for coming to our TED Talk.
Right. I think this is, Ja's slap on the wrist moment, and hopefully he could smarten up so he doesn't, lose everything that he worked so hard to get. But moving on to the tarantula moving to, I guess, his natural habitat in the Valley of the Sun hasn't been, so happy as of yet, because he kind of slipped on a banana peel, if you would, at the layup line, injuring his ankle, and now is to be reevaluated. And ironically, he got hurt on his first home game with the Suns. So he has yet to play on their home floor. Do we think this injury sets back the trajectory of the Phoenix Suns and their push into the playoffs, especially with an addition like Kevin Durant and losing integral parts to their team. Do you think this sets the Suns back, if any, or at all?
Well, I bet all the ESPN talking heads are eating their words from when the trade went down. They all started pushing Phoenix up to the top 3 in the West.
Yeah.
We all love Durant, but he's getting more and more made out of glass the more his career goes along. Ever since that finals, ever since that finals against Toronto, he's just glass, man.
I feel like this was such a like freak, accident. But KD being there, that kind of makes, if everybody's right and healthy, they're unguardable, right? Like it's too much firepower.
The basketball gods leveling the playing field.
Right. Greg, how do we feel about Kevin Durant and the Suns and this new injury?
I'll term it TBD. It's obviously concerning because main reason, cohesion with the new unit. I mean, it's a new collection of pieces. I mean, they lost Johnson and Bridges, who they dealt out for him. Like any team, there needs to be some kind of transition. That being said, I feel like if he gets enough time back, I mean, you still have Chris Paul, you still have Booker, you still have Ayton, and Durant is as easy to plug in a lineup as we know how good he is. You worry conditioning, but if he has a couple of weeks before the playoffs start, and he can get his legs back under them, I think they can. I think they can get over it. The talent level is so high that if he has enough time, I don't think the injury will be what will derail them. The concern for them would be, I think, just defensively, they're probably not as good anymore. But the injury itself to Durant, I think if he has a couple weeks before the end of the season to get in form, I think they can get through that. Put it that way.
Is he gonna even have like that much time before the playoffs start? Or is there gonna be a situation where, like, okay, here's the playoffs. Good luck.
I think the timeline was what they say 2 to 3 weeks, which is about. I mean, I'm a pure guesstimate. If it held to that, which we don't know, he's probably looking at 5 to 8 games left that he regular season. But again, we don't know that for sure. No. So the timeline they've posted, yes, he would have time, but again, that's to be determined, TBD.
Yeah.
But him at 60% is still better than 99% of the league at 100%. So
right.
It is what it is. We can say, "Oh, this is a mistake." Yeah, What team on earth wants to face them with him in the lineup? Nobody ever.
Yeah. Shad.
Yeah, I'm kind of maybe the opposite of you guys. I think you could plug in Durant right in the middle of playoffs and it's just kind of roll. He kind of proved that in Golden State. He doesn't kind of need to be ball dominant. He could kind of just be like one of the guys. He's not like like a LeBron type where he needs a be the playmaker, the dominant person with the ball. He could catch and shoot. He doesn't need to. He can let Chris Paul kind of do his thing. He can let Devin Booker kind of do his thing when he's hot. When Ayton's in the paint, do his thing. And he can still, get 25, 30 points in a game in his sleep, and he doesn't even seem like he's a volume shooter where he needs to shoot like 30 shots a game. That's just how kind of smooth Durant is. Especially at this point of his career. So I still think you could kind of plug in the Suns as a favorite in the West, as long as they stay healthy, as long as, he doesn't go out or CP3 doesn't go out, anything like that, down between like now and the playoffs. So I'm not worried, for the Suns. They may not get the best seeding, that they most people think they would have, and what they wish they may slip down to like a playing game. But I think, Durant is going to be healthy before the playoffs. He may not play before the playoffs, but I don't think it's a serious injury where, he's going to be limping through the playoffs. And he may not be 100% ready. I think he'll be 100% ready. He just may not want to take the chance. The staff may not want him to take that chance, and they know Durant's game, is just going to slide right into whatever, is going on at that moment. So I really think the Phoenix Suns will be all right.
Nice.
And that was one trade that may not necessarily be working out quite as the receiving team originally intended. But let's talk about some other ones, because this was of course, as we discussed on previous show, a very, 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 very busy trade deadline. So let's talk about some other ones that maybe worked out a little bit better. Shad, start us off. What's your trade?
My trade is, the Lakers trading, Russell Westbrook to the Utah Jazz, and then the Jazz, releasing Russell Westbrook, and now he's on the LA Clippers. I think Westbrook, he gets a bad rap, because, I think they had a stat that like, the last like 12 games Russell Westbrook started, the team is like 0-12. Yeah, they don't win, but I think a lot of time he gets bad flack. Russell Westbrook, he plays hard every single night. He may play the hardest like I've ever seen like a person play, ever, maybe since like Kobe or something, probably even harder than Kobe. He brings that energy every night. He could get you, 15 to 20 points. He could get you 8 or 9 boards, and he does turn the ball over a little bit more than my liking, but he kind of brings what the Clippers need. They need somebody who could play hard and every night, who's going to be there every night. He's not going to have any load management. Because the Clippers, they got their star players with Kawhi and Paul George. You don't know if they're going to play. They often are hurt. And, they need a vocal leader. They don't have a vocal leader. Those guys are kind of like, they have a beta male attitude, and Westbrook has an alpha male attitude, and he will get on you, get on teammates, and he will rally the troops. So I think it's, a great trade for the Clippers, down this stretch, when they're trying to get revved up and, play hard every night. And, they still have the depth. They really didn't give up too much, in their trades that they did, at the deadline either. So this Russell Westbrook is a great trade.
You're certainly spot on with the whole alpha male thing. And they certainly cleared out space for, so there's never ever going to be, in this little experiment they're working, there's never going to be a starting or bench controversy, so to speak, because they shipped out John Wall, they shipped out Reggie Jackson. It's Russy's show in the backcourt now.
Yeah, I mean, the only person you could maybe say that could start at point guard is Terrence Mann, but I wouldn't start him, this year at all. He's still young in my book. He's got some game to him, but I don't think he's ever going to be like an all-star. He's going to be like a solid starter. And I think Westbrook is still better than him at this point in time.
Yeah, I agree. I just saw a stat that since Westbrook has gotten there, they've been way better with him on the floor than off the floor. Even though he's shooting 29% from 3, they're still better with him on the floor.
Ob City's back.
I think quickly, James, on that point, I blame that whole thing on the Lakers front office. Like Westbrook on the Clippers doesn't have to shoot a ton of threes. He doesn't have to ever do it. He wants to do it obviously to create some space so people don't sag off him. But if George and Leonard are playing to their capability, he's with them. He can do what he does best. He doesn't have to be relied on. The problem was the Lakers had 82 guys who couldn't hit water from a boat from outside. So let's blame it all on Russell, right?
Yeah.
That's the issue that everyone was clogging the paint because of the LeBron, how well he gets to the basket, and they know nobody can shoot. I just think it's a much better fit overall. He doesn't need to shoot 6 threes or do any of that with the Clippers.
Well, speaking of big point guard acquisitions, Russy wasn't the only new face in a new place. Greggers, what you dishing on?
Well, we were recently touching on Kevin Durant in Phoenix, and we'll basically start what led him to going to Phoenix was Kyrie Irving going to Dallas. He finally had said he wasn't the Nets weren't going to offer him a new contract. Apparently, he didn't like that, and off they sent him to Dallas with Luka. I tell you what, I get the trade from both perspectives. The Nets, I'll start with them just because they were. It obviously didn't work. The couple of years back, Harden, Durant, Irving, you're like, wow, this team can win multiple titles. That obviously the chemistry was horrendous, and I will blame Kyrie. I think Kyrie's antics on and off the court. We know how good a player he is. I think he was the catalyst behind that. I mean, I think that's why Harden quietly, who never came out and said it. I think it was Kyrie, the whole nonsense, just everything. I could imagine a hardest play with him. So I think the Nets did well. They got Dinwiddie, they got Finney-Smith, and more importantly, they got a first round pick, 2 second round picks for basically a guy who's as good as Kyrie is, expiring contract. So they've stayed above water since they've made these deals. They're 7-6 since they've dealt them. They wound up beating Denver. I think in totality, the Nets in the deals they made, I think they did a good job. For the Mavericks, I think this is a work in progress. I believe they're 5-7. They're under 500 since they received Irving. I'm not going to blame Kyrie. There's obviously going to be some kind of learning curve with him and Luka, who are both can be very ball dominant at times. I think one issue though that is coming to play is that the Mavericks are definitely worse defensively. It's Kyrie's never been known as a lockdown, or probably really isn't cared to. His effort has many times been questioned on that end. But I get the fact from Dallas that I'm going to assume they're hoping that he'll want to stay there and they can build around those two, because it's clear Dallas they can't go anywhere without a second star to Luka. So I get the gamble. I'm not entirely certain how that's going to work and what his contract status is. So I think, to summarize it, I think the Nets did a great job considering the position they're in, and the Mavericks, high risk, high reward. If Kyrie bails, he doesn't resign, or if this blows up, which it has the potential to, they're back at square one. So very interesting. We'll have to see with Dallas how that pans out later in the year. I do, to be fair, think they need more time.
I think another big negative so far is the fact that they can't seem to play at the same time. One's hurt, the other one's playing, then that one comes back and the other one gets hurt or misses a game or whatever. So they haven't got a lot of court time yet. It's almost like the Nets experiment repeating itself with just minutes on the court.
Yeah, I like I said, I understand why. I understand why that. You heard people arguing, "Oh, Kyrie will ruin Luka," and I get that. I'm not a Kyrie fan personally. We know how talented he is. That's not the question. But I also get they had to do something. They knew they had no chance in the Western Conference without making a move like that. So I applaud the effort. I'm not sure how it's going to work out. And again, it won't be. I don't think it's decided this year either. If Kyrie leaves, I think it completely blew up on them. They can't afford to really trade more picks out, and if he goes, well, the cupboard's getting barer and barer.
Yeah, I was just looking at some stats on the Mavs and their defense. Ironically, it hasn't been terrible when both Kyrie and Luka are on the floor together. But it's when Luka is on the floor without Kyrie that it goes to all hell. The defense is terrible when it's just Luka on the floor with the others, which is interesting to look at.
Tim Legler broke something down the other day, and this is, again, I'm not trying to kill Kyrie here. I'm not blaming him. It's to be expected, right? Even on the defensive end, there's going to be some. It's a new team. It's new teammates. They're figuring out new roles. So I get that. I think they need more time.
For sure.
Well, Greg touched on a little bit. Partner, what about the beneficiary of dealing all those trades, dealing Kyrie, dealing Durant? How are the Nets doing?
Not too shabby. The trade has worked wonders for Mikal Bridges. He's averaged almost 27 points a game over his last 10 games with the Nets, and he's done it efficiently. Shooting over 50% from the field. The Nets' new starting lineup is they bring back Spencer Dinwiddie, and then they have Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, and Mikal Bridges, and also the mainstay Nick Claxton to round out their starting five. This starting five is really good defensively. Right now they're fifth in defensive rating, which is pretty good. The one person that the trade hasn't really worked out well for is Dorian Finney-Smith. He isn't shooting the ball that well, but he's wreaking havoc on the defensive end. I think this is Mikal Bridges' time to show that he could be a leader on the team, and this team still has a lot of pieces that teams would want. They got shooting, Patty Mills, Seth Curry. I'm pretty sure contending teams want Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, who's also like a 3-and-D player, and Nick Claxton, which earlier this season was leading the league in blocks. He's number 2 now. But this team has potential to be really good, really scrappy, really underrated, and catch some teams by surprise if they think that's going to be a cakewalk going into Brooklyn.
Was Cam the one that was blowing up in those first couple games after they did the trade? That was Cam, right? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, now he's a nobody again.
5 seconds of fame.
Well, not Cam Johnson, but Cam Thomas.
Cam Thomas.
Yeah. He had like 46, 3 games in a row or something crazy like that.
Have you got anything on either Kyrie and Luka or the Nets post Big Three?
I think Luka definitely needed a number 2. Last year I think they got lucky as far as how far they went. They went to the conference finals. I think realistically they realized even though Luka is probably easily a top 5 player in the league, he needs a number 2, kind of like everybody else in the league. And right now Kyrie is his number 2, but like I said, I think they don't complement each other well. I think Luka kind of needed somebody who was like a big who could play defense but not necessarily needs the ball, maybe like a Anthony Davis type of a player. But who knows? I just hope it doesn't blow up in Luka's face, because he'll be worse off than he ever was. Because I don't think, like I said, like you guys were touching on earlier, I don't think the Mavs have any kind of assets really to get anybody else. And I don't think any big time free agent is going to, wanna, be a number 2 to Luka, even though he's a great player. As far as the Nets, yes, they have to start over, but they might be the worst team in the league, for years coming. I feel like those draft picks that they did get, I'm not sure if they're going to turn into anything. They gave up a lot, and getting those star players that they had for a few years. I just feel sorry for, Jacque Vaughn. He came there, he took over for Steve Nash. They looked like they were doing good. I think they were like second in the West, and then everything just kind of imploded from there. You have Ben Simmons, who I don't know what happened to him, but he be in Taiwan with wherever Dwight Howard is, being the new Shaq and Kobe over there.
Shaq and Penny.
Yeah, Shaq and Penny. The Nets, I see that this is probably the best they'll ever be in the next like 3 or 4 years, unless somehow, they get lucky in a lottery somehow. But I would have tried once. I would have tried to sign Kyrie. I mean, I know he's a headache. I know you may not agree for like a lot of these, political, stuff he says and he does. But now your franchise might be the worst in the league, and you're in a market where they're just gonna, they want to win, 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 and they need to be on that, the back page of the New York Post every day. And now going forward, your team is probably not going to win 25 games in a season, and it's just disastrous. So I think they made a mistake not giving Kyrie and KD, everything they wanted, because you gave them they had you by the balls. You might as well just let them, keep it there instead of, just saying, forget you guys, go on, and we'll try to do something else.
Yeah. And this is like the second time they did this, because they did it with KG, Durant, and Paul Pierce, and them. Traded away everything to get those guys.
Right, and the Celtics made out great for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one thing on that, and trying to put a little sunshine on the Nets. Geez, Chad has them going to the G League. Man,
What would they have, Greg?
Chad has them playing the Westchester Knicks in the semifinals.
They don't want that type of problem.
No, but you know what I will say though, I'm obviously higher on them, and I don't mean they're about to win any title, but the Bridges breakout looks kind of for real to me. He's like, I understand it's a 12-game sample, and a lot of times guys go to a situation like this, it's volume, they shoot more. Here's the deal: Bridges is averaging 26. He's shooting almost 50% from three. So these are not garbage points, right? It's not because he's jacking 35 shots. This is efficient playing. We already know how good he is defensively. I think Cam Johnson, this was proven a couple years ago, was a great draft pick. When Phoenix took him, I forgot what number, called it the mid-teens. There were some people said he shouldn't even get drafted. He's proven to be a really good glue type of player. So the point is this: no, they don't have Durant right now. They don't have, I guess, even the talent of Kyrie. But I don't think you can wed yourself to his. Where's he going to be this year? What's he going to do next year? I think, considering, like I said, I think Bridges is looking the real deal to me. I think he's going to be an all-star type of performer going forward in the league. Again, Kyrie's level, probably not. But we're talking New York. I think even the fan base, like Kyrie was getting hard to root for, right? I mean, he basically drove Harden out of town. It's well documented all that he basically held them hostage. I couldn't, if I was the Nets, do that either. There's no way I could have mortgaged my entire future on it already didn't work. So, you can't, how many times you can't bleed blood from a stone, right? They tried it. It didn't work. I applaud them for at least moving on. But I do think in Bridges and Johnson, they have foundational pieces. And Shad did say, or sorry, you did, James, Claxton's legit. Claxton is legit NBA center. Not great offensively, but doesn't need to be. Rim runs, is awesome on the glass and defensive presence. So I don't think the cupboard's as bare as we're making it out to be for them. And I'm not a Nets fan either, but
we know what team you are a fan of. And while the Nets are down in a little bit of a transitional phase, that means it's back. Orange and blue, baby. Knicks town, show out. They pulled off a nice little trade at the deadline. Gritty Josh Hart. Tibbs has to love this guy. And they spurned off a 9-game winning streak recently. They beat the Celtics twice in that run. Let's go Knicks.
Who they lose to twice.
Why you gotta bring up old stuff for?
Don't bring on a break play yet. We'll give Shed his due in a minute, but Greg, Jet, let's show out the orange and blue real quick. How are we looking after this trade deadline and going into the stretch run?
Greg, you want to start?
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
No, there's no other way to put it. You know what? Again, I am not saying the Knicks are going to win the title by no means. But you know what? You know where they actually are out now, though? I feel like, and obviously Brunson, which I'm so happy of. You know how much I love them bringing him in. They're at the point now, I feel legit, like they're actually deep. They're the exact opposite of what they were for years. Like they have legit good basketball players. Their bench is solid. That they really do a lot of good, a lot of things well on the court. And I don't think over the course of a 3 playoff series can they go to the finals. But I'm legit at the point, especially when they won that game in Boston. Could they beat any of those top seeds in one series? I actually think they could. Now, again, I don't think they're going to do it over the course of 3. I don't think they're going through the Celtics and Milwaukee per se, both. But under the right circumstances, I mean, have they gotten themselves to a point where they could beat the Sixers or beat in any one given series? I think so. I mean, they're deep. They play the right way. Hart coming in was like the perfect addition to them. They're going to need Brunson back, of course, but look how well Quickly's played for a lot of the point is they're deep. They can withstand someone being out for a little bit. I'm really high on them. Again, we're not talking title wise, but if I'm any other team, I don't want them across the ledger either. You can't tell me any team in that playoffs is going to be happy to face the Knicks. Brunson has changed Randall for the better. I really like the overall complexion of that team. I think there's actually hope for the future for the first time since 14-12.
And you brought up Brunson, who was hurt for a good chunk of that winning streak.
And that's what I'm like. They're different. Like when I watch them nowadays, and you guys get what I'm saying. Even a couple of years ago when they got the 4 seed, I thought from day one it was a Fugazi. We knew they weren't that good. I actually feel for the first time like this when I watch them, I'm like I expect them to win a lot of the time now, and I can't even remember. If you watch the eyeball test, like they're a good basketball team. You go up to Boston and beat them like that. If I can't remember correctly, I think Boston was coming off a loss a few nights earlier. You figured they'd be ticked off to go and win that game. I'm really impressed by what the Knicks have done. And again, they're getting it from multiple sources. So even when Brunson went down that day, Quickly went nuts. They have the potential to do that. The arrow's up. It's very high. I'm buying.
And another player I want to shout out from the Knicks, Mitchell Robinson, since his return, he's been holding us down, anchoring our defense, averaging a double-double since he's been back, couple of blocks. And he's a big reason why we're ranked 9th defensively right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited, man. That Knicks run was amazing. I didn't think it would end, especially to Charlotte. But I know our guys were tired from battling with Boston. But like Greg said, we finally have real basketball players, like and more than one of them. You know what I'm saying? And it's showing on the court. And it also helps that the East got a little weaker with people getting traded to the West. But now it's looking like we can potentially be a powerhouse in the East. One of them top 3-4 teams, you know what I'm saying, that are competing to go to the finals.
Yes, sir. All right, Chad. Get on your soapbox. Tell us to go back in our hole.
No, I mean, the Knicks are much better than I thought they would be this year. Do I think they have a shot to win the East? Hell no. But I think their potential is to be a hard out in the first round. That's their ceiling. Let's take, Cleveland or Philadelphia to a 6 or 7 game, type of series, and that's probably it. That's not a bad season. I thought they would probably be like a play-in team, this season. So, they're doing good. Like I said, I think the Knicks are probably just one piece away. because they don't have like those top tier stars, superstar, like the top teams in the East do with like Milwaukee and Giannis, 76ers with Embiid and, the Celtics with Tatum. But they have a good team with strong depth, great coaching with Thibodeau. They have a lot of B+ players, but they don't have an A player. I think maybe that one person who could maybe turn into that one day is Quickly. I like him. He's definitely got some potential, but they need to hit on a draft pick or convince a free agent to come over. But besides that, I mean, I don't think they make it out of the first round. I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay to be wrong. It's all right. It's no big deal.
I mean, I don't think the Clippers are making it out of first round either, but
they may not.
No, Shad, I don't disagree with you. I don't. I just mean, but I think you'd agree. Like, being objective here, they are good enough now, though, to win one of those series. Yes. Do I expect them to beat Philly? No, probably not. But I don't think it's impossible either. Like, when you go into Boston, honestly, shorthanded, when Boston's like, you win that kind of game. And correct if I'm wrong, I think they've won twice up there this year. Correct? I think they have 2 wins in Boston this year. Point is, no, I don't expect them to beat Boston in the playoffs. But to win twice on the road up there, that's, they're playing with the big boys. There's no game nowadays they walk into and I'm like, oh, geez, they're going to lose by 55 and I'm going to break my TV by halftime. No, now it's not until 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. This is a big improvement.
Yeah,
yes.
But get your hopes up to lose in the first round. Is that what you're saying?
Shad, you have to understand. There's times in a team when you're a fan of a team, right? On a year that you're expected to contend for the title, win the title, and you lose, it's devastating. I mean, the Knicks we've been the joke of the league for 2 decades, and for the first time, you're actually seeing this team actually can be good. They can get better. Like, they're improving. That's where we're at. So, you got to remember from where the Knicks fans are coming from. No, we're not expecting a title, not at all. We want to see improvement. We want to see light at the end of the tunnel. And I think you're seeing that. I mean, they're a legit factor in the league right now. No, they're not going to win this year. No way. But could they add a piece? Are they not too far away at this point? I think that's the truth. I think they can be a factor. If not this year, next, then yeah, they're going to make it interesting. Put it that way.
And they might finally be an attractive destination for a free agent.
Yes, and that's it too. Now, if that free agent comes about, let's be honest. If any one of us, you're a player and you looked at the Knicks roster and you say, you know what, this is a pretty good team. Now it's like, oh, it's exciting to play in New York again. You're right. They have talent now. It's not someone coming in to be a savior per se and do it all by themselves. That's why I really think that the arrow is big time shooting high right now for them.
It seems like every show we have is somebody scoring 70, 80 points. And this show is no different. The new person to reach that plateau is Damian Lillard. Scored 71 points. And if anyone saw this game, it was kind of like wherever he pulled from three, the next time he shot the ball, it was like from further, to the point like he was like in the locker room pulling, and it was like it was amazing to see. I was actually having a conversation, a couple of my friends and stuff, about who's a better shooter from deep range. Is it Dame or Steph? I still think it's Steph, but everybody was trying to convince me Dame is better shooting further than he is. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but I still go with the babyface assassin. But yeah, Dame,
Steph.
Yeah, definitely Steph, right? Yeah. But Dame definitely went crazy. Shout out to him. Any feelings about Dame's performance in the 70?
I think Dame's been pulling up farther and farther ever since that playoff game.
Right.
Number of years back. I can't remember if they won that series.
No, that shot was to send them home. Send the Thunder home. Yeah. That's why they were trying to give him the edge because of that shot alone, because he did it in the playoffs, a game winner from half basically.
You know what? I came away. I watched the end of that. I switched over. NBA TV picked up the last few minutes of it. So obviously, I saw he had so many points. I want to check it out. What struck me is you just hope. There's so much to like about Damian Lillard as far as I'm concerned. He's loyal. He didn't want to go chase a title. All I could think of during that whole run was I just hope in the next few years, he somehow has a chance to play for it. You know what I mean? He's in my mind, he's so what's right about the NBA. He's a loyal, he's committed, he's he's obviously a great player. So that's what struck me is he's so awesome, and I hope he doesn't waste the last of his peak years, before his talent starts to subside, and then that's the thought I was left with. I was like, come on, Portland, you got to help him out here, because it was impressive, and he does have that potential to with the piece around him to be the lead man on a winning team.
No, for sure.
So.
No,
any thoughts on Dame?
I think his 71 was very impressive. I just think it's not as impressive if it would be if it was a few years ago, because now it seems like you have at least 4 or 5 of these games every year where somebody's getting 60, 65 plus. We saw Donovan Mitchell, I believe he had 71 also. I think Luka had 60 something, this year. So I'm not saying it's, just status quo, but, it's impressive, but it's just not like what it used to be. Especially when you're doing it in these games where it's already a blowout and, it's not coming in crunch time, type of situations. But, 71, not like it's 2K, so it is definitely impressive. Only, a certain amount of people have only done this in, NBA history. So, hats off to him. Dame Lillard, he's much better player than I thought he would be at this point of his career. I thought he would, start to, kind of wane a little bit, because he's a smaller guard. He relied a little bit too much, I think, on athleticism, but he's kept, this team afloat. I thought they would be, at the bottom of the league. And I think they're right there, vying for a playoff spot, at least a play-in spot. So, hats off to him. Hats off, to Chauncey Billups also.
For sure. Quick question.
And the fact that, he's doing it against the Houston Rockets.
Right. There's that. Is since this season, we've seen scoring go up, especially with those people that are considered scorers. Do you think these games, these big games, these 60 plus point games are less impressive? Or do they still hold weight?
No, I think it's a combination of both. I think they hold a little less weight, just like I said. I feel like you see 4 or 5 of these games every single season now, the past few seasons, where somebody is scoring 60 plus points. But at the same time, there's only been a handful of people that could really, kind of light up the scoreboard like, these guys are doing now. All this NBA is kind of has been, an offensive league, especially in the past, 5-10 years, when everybody's just pretty much shooting, 3-point shots, where, half the shots taken in the game are 3-point shots. Right. So I'm split down the middle. I give people credit for getting that amount of points, but at the same time, it's not as impressive as it used to be, back, 15, 20 plus years ago, when most of these guys were doing it, taking 2-pointers and only maybe 3 or 4 of their, shots would be, 3-pointers. So.
Yeah, to Shad's point, it's happening so often. It's definitely losing a little bit of its luster, but it is still a shit ton of points to score. It's also completely rendering the Defensive Player of the Year award completely meaningless. What's defense?
Right.
I personally, There's part of me that thinks that, but I think it's part, and it's not a cut on Dame because they were playing Houston, but I think it's circumstantial. Like, and again, it's not anything against Lillard, but I will say, like, even the Donovan Mitchell one where he scored 71, I take it contextually. Like, that was more impressive to me because that's a game they won in overtime. So the point is, like, those points were, and that's no cut on Lillard. It's not his fault that Houston, how many down they were, but to do that. And I quickly looked at Mitchell's box score here. He shot 65% that night with 71 points in overtime win. That's impressive to me. Like when it's in a game and that made the difference in win. Of course, that's the reason Portland won because Dame scored that many. You get my point though. Like when I was watching the end of that Portland game, they were just getting them the ball every possession because they just wanted to get him as many points. Yeah.
It wasn't like they needed it. They ain't needed.
Yeah, like you saw, they had open shots. I think it was like Jeremy Grant, or it might have been him. Like legitimately could have taken it right to the hole. Like there was no one guarding him. It was like the Matador D, and he kicked it back out to D. I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
but there can be a little of that sometimes.
Yeah, and Donovan, I remember that game. They were down before they tied it up to go to OT, and then
I don't remember. I don't even think he had like a huge start to that game either. I don't think he I don't think he had like 20 after the first. I don't think he did.
I think he scored 36 in the third quarter or something crazy like that.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Insane.
Well, we talked a little stretch run from the Knicks perspective, but let's talk some stretch run from the league overall. Gentlemen. We can see who the top three teams in each conference are now, but who's going to be the top three teams in each conference in another month and a half?
At the Warriors.
They're working on a W right now.
Yeah, they're putting a beating on Phoenix.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't win on the road though. So you can't take them serious as a contender. You can't take a team serious when they only won 7 road games all year.
That's disgusting.
That's pretty embarrassing.
And I believe I saw the other day, like NBA history since the 82 game season has been, around. The team that won the championship with the least amount of road wins was like the Shaquille O'Neal and Dwayne Wade, like Miami Heat team, and I believe they won 21 road games. And this team only has 7. So you really think they're a contender?
7-26 is pretty embarrassing. I think the 4 of us with a random kid we could find on the street could win more than 7 road games.
Do we play the Lakers every night?
Oh, see, there you go, Shadow. We got the Lakers on the show after all.
Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't leave them alone. Couldn't leave them alone.
All right.
I'll take. I don't think the East is changing. I think Bucks, Celtics, Sixers. I think Denver at this point with the Josh situation and now the Durant injury, I think Denver's going to solidify the number 1 seed in the West. I don't think they're moving. Well, it looked like more of a toss up a little while, a few weeks back, but I think they're pretty much locked in. But with the aforementioned Josh situation plus Durant's injury now, I think Sacramento's going to be locked into a top 3 seed. And then I guess the third one is going to be either which one of these situations isn't quote unquote as bad. Can the Grizzlies maintain not having Ja until maybe the end of the season? Or can Phoenix withstand not having Durant? Because they pretty much played without Durant for most of the season anyway, plus the last couple of years. So can they just play a more run it back Phoenix Suns to kind of overtake to kind of flip flop with Memphis, or Shad's Clippers? Maybe Russy's the extra bit to there. I kind of want to say Memphis will hold on to it just from a numbers standpoint, but Sacramento's definitely going to leapfrog them. I think. I talk a lot.
big respect for Sacktown.
Raise the beams.
Raise the beams.
Light the beams. I'm sorry. What is it? Light the beams?
Twice on the pipes.
Greg knows. Greg's the one that told us that.
Yeah.
I love Sacramento. Yeah, they're quite entertaining this year. It's nice to see them relevant again.
What do you guys got? What are your top three? Any shakeups you got in the top three?
Now, are we going like top three record wise, or we're just going top three teams in the conference that we think?
Well, more the latter, but also who are going to be the top three when the season comes to a close?
Okay. Well, I think in the East, it's, almost pretty much locked in. The Bucks, the Celtics, the 76ers, top three, by record and just by like power ranking. As far as the West, record wise, I think Denver holds on to that number one seed. I think number two is going to go to Sacramento, and number three is going to be the Phoenix Suns. Now, if you're going power rankings, I think honestly it's the Suns are going to be number one, the Clippers are going to be number two, and Denver is going to be number three.
For me, I'm gonna change up the East a little bit. I'm gonna go Bucks, Celtics, and I'm gonna put the Cavs over the Sixers. And in the West, I'm also gonna go Nuggets, Kings, Suns. No particular order, but that's like the top three.
Greg, what you got? Shake up, stay the same?
I don't envision there being a big shakeup in either conference as far as the regular season standings. I Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly in my mind are firmly entrenched in some form. Boston's playing terrible right now. They just lost at Houston again tonight. But that being said, I think they're far enough ahead of the fourth seed. I don't think that'll change significantly. In the West, the Durant injury, again, I don't think this has any impact on what happens in the playoffs. But if we're talking purely standings wise, I think Memphis hangs on to one of those top three seeds still. I would think they stay on top again. They may switch places, but Memphis even today a great road win. They beat Dallas by 16. I think Memphis' strength of theirs is their depth. I don't think you'll see a significant drop in the standings. So I think them and Sacramento, I would think will stay 2 and 3. If Durant was healthy, I think Phoenix would probably overtake both of them, to be honest. But with him being out, I think it'll stay status quo. Again, no impact on the playoffs. So I don't. That doesn't mean I think those are the three best teams in the playoffs going forward, just as far as regular season standings.
All right, being that we picked, our top teams, let's talk about, I guess, the elephant in the room, the MVP race. It's starting to tighten up. We getting our final candidates. I want to know what you got. What are you guys' picks for MVP? Shad, who you got for MVP this season so far?
I'm very torn. I know Jokic has won it the past 2 seasons, and I'm not sure if he deserved it the past 2 seasons. So I think there's going to be kind of voter fatigue, even though his team is like the number one team, in the West, and the other teams that he have are like, I think 6th in the West. He's, got the best stats. but I'm gonna go with Joel Embiid. I believe right now he's like leading the league in scoring. He's got Philadelphia, right there. I think all three teams in the East are the best three teams in the NBA. So I think he has a third best team, in the NBA with the 76ers. I think he's doing the coaching of Doc Rivers also. I had to throw that in there. And I think he was absolutely robbed last year, so I got to give it to him.
Yeah. Greg, who's your MVP pick?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Jokic. I mean, the numbers he keeps posting, they're getting more ridiculous. I mean, every night. I don't need to go into ad nauseum, but literally, you're seeing, he's doing things that no player's ever done. The efficiency, the averaging a triple double, and something else. I just gave a quick glance too. Jokic, if you want to pit, and I can't argue Embiid, Giannis, but you know what does factor into me that if there is, he's played more games than them. And that's part of what Jokic, it's part why they're the number one seed. And I think there's something to be said for that. He's there, he's on the court, and he's obviously their best player by a landslide. Again, I have no argument with, if Embiid won or Giannis won. Absolutely not. It's not like one of these, this is an egregious error. But I just think, especially with Denver being the one seed, looks like they're going to get that. He's obviously the by far and away the main factor there. And I get what Chad's saying about the recency bias, but I'm trying to not use that as a bias. Like, who do I forget the last few years? Who do I think this year, most games played, most impact, most successful team because of his actions? I'm going to give it to Jokic.
Nice. Partner.
It's funny you said it's more wide open now, because a few weeks ago, what were we saying? Tatum Morant. And now the Celtics have kind of fallen off. They let the Bucks catch them and surpass them. So now you're not hearing Tatum's name as much. And of course, now you're not hearing Morant's name as much for all the reasons we previously listed. So yeah, 100% it's way wide open. And I think the voters are weird. So I think they could pull some nonsense and say, hey, we voted for Joker 2 years in a row, let's not do it again. But 100%, 130%, the most valuable player in the league is Joker. Like, with this year, without a doubt.
That's some BS, man.
Again, do I think he's gonna win it? I think the voters will have recency bias, but I don't necessarily think it's right, because he has been the best player in the league this year, and they're the team that's been the most consistent too. I mean, Boston was running away with the number one seed for a good chunk of the season. Now they're falling off. Philadelphia's kind of been right around the same spot. Memphis has been kind of right around the same spot. They were challenging Denver for a little bit, but now they've fallen off, and their MVP is not even playing. Sacramento's been at the top, but not surpassing those guys, and also not really a one standout player on their team. I mean, Durant and Fox has put up a shit ton of points, and Sabonis was a triple-double threat, but, are you going to take one of those guys over Giannis or Embiid or Joker or Morant? No.
I'd rather give the Sabonis than Jokic.
Well, that's a hot take.
I mean, the Kings they did climb out the ashes.
Exactly. They traded like one player, and look how good they are. Look how much better they are. You could use that argument.
The cold ashes. Those weren't even hot ashes.
Like I said, again, you can make a lot of. I'm not. You're talking about great players, but if I had a factor, again, that is something I checked that for myself, because I'm like, I feel like he's played at least 6 more games than Embiid and 10 more. Yeah, I'm not saying it's a cut on those other guys, but isn't there something to be said for, if you're weighing a close debate and one guy plays, 8 to 10% more games than the rest of them. That's going to factor in for me at least. Again, we're talking all great players. They're not. I think people get caught up sometimes. I'm not angry if Giannis or Embiid win. No, but I think Jokic is, averaging a triple double as a big man is ludicrous in my mind that he's able to do that. Seriously, it is. I mean, it's insane.
Well, for me,
That is actually official right now.
for me, I like Giannis. I think that he's if not the most dominant player in the NBA right now. He's one of them, and I know Joker edges him out with the assists, but he scores more than Joker nightly, and he still averages about almost 6 assists. So I think he's valid for winning the MVP. His team is at the top of the East as well. I'm not sure which team out of the two of them, Joker and Giannis, has the best record, but
I think Milwaukee's slightly right now. It's close. I think recently they've pulled ahead of them.
Yeah, so currently he has the best record in the league. I'm pretty sure he's top 5 in rebounds and scoring, maybe blocks too. I'm not sure. I'm not looking at it, but I think Giannis is a great candidate for winning the MVP this year. And I find it crazy that the top 3 people are all international players, no Americans.
And that would make either of the two, that would make the last 5, if either of them win, that would make the last 5 MVP awards just completely dominated by 2 players.
Yeah. I mean, we look back, right? Like when Magic and Bird was playing, that's kind of like what was happening. Yeah.
Jordan.
Well, that the one thing I'll say, which is nice, like back then, at least the time, like even recently, right? I mean, what was the number? The best players in the league were winning and going to every title. Like it was what did the Cleveland Golden State play 4 straight years in the finals? Right?
Yeah.
It was 4 straight years. I don't mean that it was boring, but now like it's far more wide open the NBA. Like for a number of years, like how many teams now? I'm just thinking like the MVP candidates, they were going to the finals.
Oh God, when Phoenix and Milwaukee met each other, and I was like, thank God, and finals without LeBron.
Right.
Not even to hate on LeBron. It just let me see something. I just want to see something different.
And that was a legit good finals. Like I really enjoyed that finals. Didn't know who was going to win. Like,
yeah, that's where I would say now, just quickly, that the NBA is call it more interesting. Is that for years and years, like you knew there was only 2-3 teams that had any chance of winning the title. That's really not the case right now. It's not like that. There's far more teams that could actually win it. I don't mean it's like 12, but it's not 2 or 3, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
Well, something that's never a good thing, and that's the end of the show. But we gotta sign off at some point. Follow us and stay in the conversation on Twitter and Instagram at HoopsBoysPod. And don't forget to hit that sub button, smash that like button on YouTube, the official home of the Hoops Boys podcast. James the Jet, Greggers the Shaddillac.